The narrative of Elisha's encounter with the Shunammite woman is one of the richest in the Old Testament, highlighting divine providence and human faith. Elisha, a renowned prophet in Israel, was known for his miracles and leadership following Elijah. During his travels, he frequently passed through Shunem, a small town in the territory of Issachar. In Shunem, Elisha met a notable woman, described as wealthy and respected. Her generosity and spiritual discernment led her to invite Elisha into her home whenever he passed through the town, offering him meals. This gesture was not merely a social courtesy, but a reflection of her spiritual understanding of Elisha's importance as a man of God. The interaction between Elisha and the Shunammite woman reveals a divine pattern of faith, action, intervention, and gratitude. Recognizing Elisha's holiness, the woman took the initiative to ensure he had a place to rest during his travels. This intimate relationship between the prophet and the faithful woman exemplifies how persistence in seeking divine favor can lead to restoration and blessings. The story begins when Elisha, during his travels, frequently passed through Shunem. There, he encountered the Shunammite woman, whose hospitality and generosity became central to the miraculous events that followed. Her interaction with Elisha not only highlights the importance of hospitality in the ancient Near East, but also how faith and action can attract divine intervention in powerful and transformative ways. Imagine losing your child unexpectedly, and, instead of succumbing to despair, you put your faith into action, believing that God can restore life. This is exactly what the Shunammite woman did when she sought out Elisha. Continue reading to discover how her determination and unwavering faith led to a miracle that changed everything. The Shunammite woman, known for her faith and generosity, left a lasting legacy in the Scriptures. She possessed spiritual discernment and a hospitable heart. Recognizing Elisha as a man of God, she would invite him for meals whenever he passed through Shunem. This gesture went beyond social courtesy, reflecting her understanding of Elisha's spiritual significance. In the ancient Near East, hospitality was a crucial virtue, especially among the Israelites. Offering food and rest to travelers was seen as a service to God, particularly when offered to prophets. Elisha accepted the Shunammite woman's hospitality, visiting her home regularly. This act of kindness laid the foundation for a deeper relationship between the prophet and the Shunammite family, setting the stage for miraculous events. The Shunammite woman's hospitality was not an isolated act, but a continuous practice, demonstrating her devotion to God through her care for the prophet. Each time Elisha passed through Shunem, she ensured he had a meal and a place to rest. This behavior reflects a recurring spiritual principle in the Scriptures. Welcoming and caring for God's servants often results in divine blessings. The Shunammite woman went further by building a special room for Elisha on the roof of her house. With her husband's help, she created a simple yet adequate space with a bed, a table, a chair, and a lamp. This room provided Elisha with a place for rest and reflection, allowing him to continue his ministry with renewed strength and tranquility. The Shunammite woman did not stop at offering meals and rest to Elisha. She wanted to provide him with a permanent and private space. Recognizing the importance of Elisha's work as a prophet, she proposed to her husband to build a special room for him on the roof of their house. The room, furnished with a bed, a table, a chair, and a lamp, was simple but sufficient for Elisha's needs. This act of generosity reflected her deep faith and recognition of Elisha's status as a holy man of God. Building an additional room was not a simple task and required financial resources and effort. The Shunammite woman's decision to offer this room to Elisha demonstrated her devotion to God and her desire to honor the prophet. The room provided Elisha with a place of rest, reflection, and prayer, essential for his ministry. Elisha, touched by the generosity of the Shunammite woman and her husband, wanted to express his gratitude. Although the woman had not asked for anything in return, Elisha wished to bless her in a meaningful way. He asked through his servant Gehazi if there was anything she needed or desired, but the woman expressed satisfaction with her life and circumstances, indicating she was content living among her people. However, Gehazi observed that the woman had no children and that her husband was old, suggesting that the couple likely would not have children. In ancient Israelite cultures, having children was considered a blessing from God, and the absence of children could be seen as a source of sadness or shame. Moved by this revelation, Elisha decided to bless her in a way she had not even asked for. Elisha, wishing to repay the Shunammite woman's generosity, asked if there was anything she needed, but she did not express any specific request. Gehazi, Elisha's servant, observed that the woman had no children and that her husband was elderly, suggesting that the lack of children was an unspoken need. In response, Elisha prophesied, "About this time next year, you will hold a son in your arms." The woman's reaction was one of disbelief and hesitation. Having likely abandoned hope of having a child, she replied, "No, my lord, man of God, do not lie to your servant." Her words revealed a mix of fear and desire. The fear of having her hopes raised only to be dashed, and the deep desire for a child she had probably buried for many years. Despite her initial doubt, the prophecy came true. The following year, the Shunammite woman gave birth to a son, just as Elisha had predicted. This miraculous birth was a testament to God's faithfulness and his power to fulfill promises that seemed impossible from a human perspective. The birth of this child was a moment of great joy for the Shunammite woman and her husband, a tangible sign of God's blessing in their lives, a gift beyond what they could have asked for or imagined. However, the family's joy was soon confronted with an unexpected tragedy. When the boy was still young, he went out to the fields to be with his father during the harvest. Suddenly, he complained of a severe headache, crying out, "My head! My head!" His father, concerned, instructed one of the servants to carry the boy back home. The boy was taken home, where he sat on his mother's lap, but by noon, the child had died. The death of her son was a devastating blow to the Shunammite woman, a profound test of her faith and resilience. The boy grew, bringing joy to the family, but happiness was interrupted by an unexpected tragedy. While in the fields with his father, the boy complained of a severe headache, crying out, "My head, my head." His father, concerned, instructed a servant to take him back home. The child was taken to his mother, but by noon, the boy had died in her lap. The death of her son was a devastating blow to the Shunammite woman, whose son had been a miraculous gift from God. Despite the pain, the Shunammite woman's response was remarkable. Instead of succumbing to despair, she acted with impressive faith and determination. She did not mourn or make burial preparations. Instead, she carried her son to the room she had built for Elisha and laid him on the prophet's bed. This act was deeply symbolic. By placing the boy on Elisha's bed, the woman demonstrated her faith in God's power to restore life, and her belief that Elisha could intercede on her behalf. After placing the boy on the bed, the Shunammite woman immediately set out to find Elisha. Without telling her husband about the son's death, she acted quickly and decisively. She asked her husband to send a servant and a donkey so she could go to the man of God and return. Her husband, unaware of the severity of the situation, questioned why she needed to visit Elisha, as it was neither the new moon nor the Sabbath, traditional times to seek the prophet's counsel. The woman's response was simple and full of faith. "Everything will be all right. This expression of confidence reveals her unwavering belief that God could intervene, even in the face of death. Determined to seek help, the Shunammite woman set out to find Elisha, without revealing to her husband the death of her son. After placing the boy on Elisha's bed, she asked her husband to send a servant and a donkey so she could go to meet the prophet. Her husband, not understanding the urgency, questioned the reason for the visit, as it was not a special day to seek Elisha's counsel. The woman responded with faith, "Everything will be all right," demonstrating her confidence in divine intervention. The Shunammite woman's journey to find Elisha was a testimony of her faith and persistence. Upon reaching Elisha at Mount Carmel, she fell at his feet, overwhelmed by grief, but still clinging to hope in God. Elisha, perceiving her anguish, sent Gehazi ahead with his staff, instructing him to place it on the boy's face. Gehazi did as instructed, but there was no response from the boy. However, the woman insisted that Elisha himself come, and her persistence was rewarded. When Elisha arrived at the Shunammite woman's house, he found the boy lying dead on his bed. He entered the room, closed the door, and prayed to the Lord. Then Elisha stretched himself out over the boy, mouth to mouth, eyes to eyes, hands to hands. As he did so, the boy's body began to warm. Elisha got up, walked back and forth in the house, and then stretched himself over the boy again. This time, the boy sneezed 7 times and opened his eyes. The miracle was complete. The boy had been brought back to life. When Elisha called the Shunammite woman and told her to take her son, her first response was to fall at his feet in worship and gratitude. She recognized that the miracle was God's work through his servant, reflecting her deep faith and gratitude. The woman's calm and determination during the ordeal are remarkable. Despite her immense sorrow, her actions demonstrated an unwavering trust in God. She did not panic or mourn conventionally. Instead, her first thought was to go directly to Elisha, the man of God who had predicted her son's miraculous birth. Her belief that Elisha could intercede for her and that God could restore her son's life speaks volumes about her conviction in the divine ability to perform miracles. Placing her son's body on Elisha's bed, built as a resting place for the prophet, symbolized her faith in divine intervention. The story of Elisha and the Shunammite woman teaches us about faith, generosity, and the powerful intervention of God in response to the faith and hospitality of his servants. If you enjoyed this inspiring story about the faith and generosity of the Shunammite woman, don't forget to like the text, share it with your friends, and leave your comment about what touched you most in this journey of miracles and hope. Subscribe to receive more stories like this, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any new content. Until the next reading.